Becoming self-aware is a painful act, but there's no growth without pain. Carl Gustav Jung. From an early age, even before we know how to speak or think clearly, our emotional mind starts absorbing the world. We take in not just what we're told, but especially what is shown to us, what we feel, and above all, what we don't receive. Among the many influences that shape who we become, there is one presence that even in silence leaves a deep mark: the father, or rather, the absence of him. It doesn't matter if you grew up hearing that he did the best he could, or if you learned to justify his cold behavior with ready-made excuses. What matters is what that caused inside you, because a father's absence isn't just measured by physical distance. Many times it happens right at home, in the looks that never came, in the words left unsaid, in the physical presence that never turned into true affection. And so, we grow up with a void. A very specific kind of void. The void of validation. The void of guidance. The void of masculine approval. That feeling of always trying to prove something to someone, even if you're not exactly sure what. We become adults who overwork ourselves, striving to stand out, to please, to be useful, efficient, strong. But inside, there's still a child looking at the door, hoping their father will walk in and sincerely say, "I see you. I care about you. You matter to me." But he never walks in. And sometimes even worse, he's no longer around at all. And this is where the story needs to change, because as long as you keep waiting for that approval to come from outside, from a partner, a boss, a friend, from anyone who admires you the way your father never did, you'll stay stuck in a cycle of constant striving, feeling drained, frustrated, and often without knowing why. The wound left by an emotionally absent father isn't superficial. It quietly shapes the kind of person you believe you have to become to deserve love, and that almost always distances us from our true selves, because we stop living authentically and start living to chase what we imagine will finally make us worthy of love. Imagine a 12-year-old boy who spends hours trying to perfect every detail of a drawing just to hang it on the fridge and hear a "good job" that never comes. Now imagine that same boy 25 years later, still trying to earn the approval of everyone around him, accepting relationships that diminish him, jobs that drain him, responsibilities that aren't his to carry. Time has passed, but the inner logic remains the same. Maybe if I just do more, maybe if I get better, maybe then someone will finally see me. And no one realizes that what he's chasing isn't success, love, or respect. It's the presence of that father who, in one way or another, was absent. Some might say this is just stuff from the past, that what's done is done. But the psyche doesn't work in a straight line. It's circular. It repeats, echoes, recreates. What wasn't emotionally processed comes back wearing new masks, showing up in different situations, under different names. But the feeling is the same: abandonment, neglect, inadequacy. It's like an internal script that keeps being acted out even after the audience has long gone. And that's why so many adults find themselves stuck in patterns they don't understand. Relationships where they're constantly overlooked, places where they never feel they truly belong, stories that always end with the sense of not being enough. Healing this wound is more than a therapy exercise. It's a reunion with who you truly were before you tried to become what others expected. It's a journey back inside where that child, the same one who just wanted to be seen by their father, is still waiting, still crying, still wondering what they did wrong. But that child didn't do anything wrong. And neither did you. It wasn't your fault. The absence wasn't because you were unworthy of love. It happened because your father, with all his own limitations, didn't know how, or wasn't able, to give you what you needed. And now the question isn't, why didn't he? But what am I going to do with this now? That question changes everything, because it shifts the focus from the past and puts the power back in your hands. Not so you can blame yourself, but so you can choose. Because yes, you can choose not to repeat the cycle. You can choose not to keep sabotaging yourself, not to keep begging for attention, not to accept crumbs when you deserve a full, genuine presence. You can choose to give yourself what no one ever taught you how to receive: respect, care, emotional dignity. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because there's a part of us that still hopes the father will notice, come apologize, say all the things he never said. But that moment might never come. And you can't put your life on hold waiting for it. Liberation doesn't come from the other person. It comes from the moment you look at yourself honestly and say, enough. I'm not living based on his absence anymore. I'm living based on what I can build from now on. You might try to ignore the hole left inside you. You might fill your life with achievements, degrees, endless tasks. You might convince yourself that you're fine, that you've moved on. But at some point, usually at night when the silence falls, or when yet another relationship ends the same way, or when that praise you were hoping for once again doesn't come, the wound shows up again. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and those whispers have the power to tear you apart. It's in these moments you realize you haven't really moved on. You've just hidden it. It's tough to admit this. It hurts to recognize that part of our choices, part of our emotional failures, are rooted in something so old. But ignoring it is what truly traps us. Because while we don't name the pain, it controls our actions silently. And this shows up in so many ways. In the habit of shrinking yourself in relationships, almost begging to be chosen. In the fear of exposing yourself, of showing vulnerability, of fully trusting someone. In the constant urge to solve everything alone, as if asking for help would be the ultimate proof of weakness. This need for validation is often mistaken for strength. People who handle everything, who don't need anyone, who solve it all by themselves. But deep down, there's a screaming loneliness. A silent belief that if you depend on someone, you'll be abandoned. That if you mess up, you'll be rejected. That if you show weakness, you'll lose the little affection you've earned. These ideas settled in our minds so early, they became internal rules. But they're rules built on pain, not on truth. Have you ever wondered why you attract emotionally distant people? Or why you tend to overgive in relationships? Maybe you've never realized it, but this could just be a reflection of trying to replay a pattern you know all too well. Trying to make someone emotionally present even when they're not. Unconsciously recreating the same relationship you had with your father, only now with partners, bosses, friends, and not because you want to suffer, but because on some level, you still believe that if you just try hard enough, someone will stay. But it doesn't work that way, because no one can fill what only you can acknowledge. No amount of love from the outside will heal what you're still hiding inside. No relationship will ever feel safe while you're still trying to prove your worth to someone. Real healing begins when you stop repeating the pattern, when you realize you don't need to earn anything anymore, because you already are enough. And maybe you never heard that from your father. Maybe he was harsh, absent, addicted to work, cold, unpredictable. Or maybe he was around, but never truly looked you in the eye like he really saw you. Maybe he never said, "I'm proud of you," even when you did everything right. Maybe he compared you, belittled you, ignored you, and that hurt. And it hurt even more because deep down, you believed the problem was you. That if you were better, more behaved, smarter, then maybe he would have loved you the way you needed. But the problem was never you. The problem was what was missing, what he didn't know how to give, what he maybe never received himself. And this isn't about forgiving out of pity or justifying someone else's mistakes. It's about freeing yourself from the need to keep carrying that weight. You don't need it anymore. And the most beautiful part is that, as you start embracing yourself, the relationships around you begin to change. You stop settling for the bare minimum. You stop chasing after people who have no time, no presence, no maturity to offer. You start being enough for yourself. And when that happens, something magical also happens. What once was neediness turns into choice. What once was fear turns into autonomy. What once was pain turns into awareness. Life won't stop presenting challenges, but now you face them differently. You're no longer the child trying to be accepted. You're the adult who recognizes their own light. And this act of looking inward, honestly, compassionately, is the beginning of freedom. It might take you some time to notice it, but once you do, nothing feels the same again. You stop living reactively. You stop waiting for the world to give you what you can already give yourself. And then, you finally begin to create new paths, new connections, a new story. And if you've made it this far, maybe something inside you is ready for this transformation. Not by chance, but because the pain got tired of repeating itself. Because the pattern screamed too loudly. Because your heart is asking for space. And right now, all it needs is for you to say, "I see you." Because those words you waited so long to hear from your father, Now, they need to come from you, to you. If this video touched you in any way, take a deep breath. You are exactly where you're meant to be, facing your own truth. And if you want to keep walking this journey with us, subscribe to the channel now, but not out of obligation. Do it because this is a space of listening, of courage, of awakening. And leave a comment sharing something that came up for you while you listened. It could be a memory, an insight, a feeling. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Your sharing might light a spark in someone who's still in the dark. It might be the push someone needs to take their first step. Let's build this space together. Healing the father wound isn't about erasing the past. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt, or about putting on armor and pushing forward like nothing happened. It's also not about confronting your father, demanding answers, or expecting him to become someone he might never be. True healing happens when you realize that what you lacked back then doesn't have to define how you live today. When you understand that you have the power to break the cycle, that you can at any moment choose a different story. Many people believe time heals everything, but time, on its own, doesn't heal emotional wounds. It only buries what we refuse to face. And what gets buried always comes back. It comes back as anxiety, as fear, as shallow relationships, as self-sabotage that feels endless. It comes back in choices that make no sense, in people who treat us less than we deserve, in situations where we shrink ourselves just to avoid being abandoned again. And so, we go on existing, but not truly living, until one day something inside us cries out for help. A sudden wave of anguish and unexplained sadness and emptiness right in the middle of an apparently stable life. And then we realize, something in me is still waiting for a look that never came, for a recognition that never happened, for an I'm here that was never spoken. That's when the real journey begins. Because unlike what many think, healing isn't about finding answers. It's about showing up for the parts of ourselves that were ignored. Showing up for the child who still lives inside us, scared, silent but alive. That child who tried so hard to be good, perfect, strong. The one who hid their tears so they wouldn't be a burden. Who stayed silent to avoid rejection. Who grew up too soon because there was no one to run to. That child isn't looking for someone to blame. They're looking for comfort, for someone to listen, to be validated. By you, and only by you. Because the father they waited for might never return. But you are here. You grew up. And now you have the chance to become what was once missing. And it's amazing how, when you start doing that, everything around you slowly begins to shift. Not magically, not instantly, but subtly. You begin saying no to what you used to accept in silence. You realize you don't need to prove your worth all the time. You start building relationships where you don't have to beg for crumbs because you've learned to nourish yourself with your own love. And that changes everything. The way you see yourself, the way you show up in the world, the way you connect with others. What used to be fear becomes strength. What used to be neediness becomes choice. Of course, there will still be hard days. Days when you'll feel like slipping back into old patterns. When you'll feel tempted to chase after someone who doesn't truly see you. When you'll want to try, once again, to win over someone who's never really shown up for you. And that's okay. Healing isn't a straight line. It comes with setbacks, stumbles, and returns. But each time you come back to yourself a little faster, with more compassion and less guilt, you get stronger. Each time you choose not to repeat the old pattern, you're writing a new story. And one day you realize, it doesn't hurt the way it used to. You connect with others with more lightness. Your choices come from a place of awareness. The people around you reflect the new space you've created within yourself. And most importantly, you no longer depend on anyone else to feel whole, because you have recognized yourself. And that recognition is what you were searching for all along. But now it's yours, not borrowed, not conditional, yours. Jung called this process individuation, becoming who you truly are, beyond the roles you learned to play, going beyond the mask of the good child, the strong one, the one who endures everything, stripping away the character you learned to play just to survive, and finally touching the truth, that you are worthy of love even when you're not pleasing anyone, that you deserve to be seen even when you're silent, that you have value simply because you exist, and that's truly liberating. So don't wait for life to give you permission. Give it to yourself. You don't need to beg for love anymore. You don't need to hide your pain anymore. You don't need to carry the weight of not having been enough for someone who maybe never even knew how to love. You are here now. And just the fact that you're here shows that you want something different, that you want to break the cycle, that you want to create from awareness, not from need, that you want to be whole for yourself. And if this video found you at a sensitive moment, a moment when everything feels too fragile, believe this. It's not weakness. It's openness. It's a sign that the process has already begun, and no matter how hard it feels, you are not alone. Here, on this channel, we're creating a space where pain can be heard without judgment, where wounds can become bridges, where each story shared has the power to heal others, because no one walks this path alone when they're willing to look within. If you felt something inside you was touched today, I invite you, from the heart, to join us on this journey. Subscribe to the channel not out of habit but as a commitment to yourself, to keep this process going, to allow yourself to feel, to grow with awareness. Turn on the notification bell for upcoming content, yes, but also as a symbol that you're ready to listen to your own soul. And tell me, what touched you in this video? Which part felt like it was speaking directly to your story? Share it with us in the comments. This exchange is more than just interaction. It's a collective healing movement, and it might be that your words are exactly what someone else needs to read today. Because when you show up, you inspire, and when you heal, you help heal the world around you too.